Well, it's all about going back to who you are. It's all about that personal brand. What is the image you want people to see? What is it you want to say? It's all about that. It's not about, I always say fashion is fleeting, style is forever. And when you know what is style? Well, style is being true to yourself, is being authentic. That's your true style. And it's all about going back to who are you and what is it you want to say, and what kind of image do you want to portray?
Well, today's episode is going to be one that you are going to want to bookmark and come back to. There are so many takeaways when it comes to building your online brand, how you show up, meaning physically what you choose to wear when you're on a stage or on video. It sends a message to your audience. And I know we would all love to not be a book judged by its cover, but it's how we're wired as humans. We judge people and first impressions are made. And as today's guest is going to help you understand how you choose to show up, your physical style that you use when you show up and speak as an online entrepreneur, it matters. And if you want to build trust and credibility with an audience, you have to look the part. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to be fake and dress as something that you're not, but you do have to be aware that what you choose to wear, how you choose to style yourself, how you groom yourself, yes, all these things matter. And it might not be the sexiest conversation, but you are going to freaking love what my guest today and I cover when it comes to building your own personal brand style as an online entrepreneur. So a little bit about today's guest before we dive in. I talk about this in the interview, but you're going to meet my friend Kristina. Her official title is she's an image and interior style specialist and CEO of Aesthetic and Style LLC. Kristina Pernforns, I met her in New York City, and I share this story at the top of the interview. Kristina and I both attended an event together in New York, and I was blown away, not just by Kristina's style, but Kristina has a presence about her that you're drawn to. And I think you're going to experience that both in audio form today, but she's got a wonderful Swedish accent, but you're also going to experience that if you do choose to watch the episode, you can head on over to thespeakerco.com, go over to the podcast, find the latest episode, and you can watch our YouTube video of it where you'll actually see Kristina in action and you'll see the things she talks about in this episode. But Kristina, one of the reasons why I wanted to have her on the show is she's not only a brand stylist, she actually has this really interesting story around how she took her experience as an interior designer and realized that the clients that she was designing homes for, they love their spaces, but they're like, I don't know how, like, I don't feel like I belong here because they didn't feel like they were fancy like their homes. And she's like, I think there's something to this of how do we help ensure that the physical environment that you live in and how you physically show up in your personal style, it really reflects how you want to be seen. And this is really important when we think about online entrepreneurship. We are often the face of our companies. And like it or not, the way that you groom, the way that you speak, as we talk a lot about on the show, the way that you physically show up in your appearance, it sends an impression to your prospects and your audience. And the question is, are you happy with the message that's being shared? And if you're not feeling extremely confident or you're not getting the reception that you desire, if you're not attracting the quality clients that you're after, this might be an area that you really can step up in your game. Now, we're not going to tell you to go buy a bunch of fancy clothes today. We actually address that at the end of the episode, that you do not need to have a ton of money or go buy a new wardrobe. But what it does require is you need to be clear around how you want to be seen and how you make that happen through your physical appearance. This interview is one of my favorites I've done in quite a while. Kristina is so refreshing to listen to. She's got really great stories, and she does this interesting thing. I want you to pay attention. Just very interesting thing on this episode that she weaves in artists, like physical painting artists and historical references, like oh man, I can't remember. I just lost the name of it on top of me. The really famous painter artist. You're gonna know exactly as you listen to the episode. But she has this really beautiful way of weaving in this historical nature into the conversation, and it was just really fascinating. Not only listening to what she had to say, but her style in which how she communicates around her brand style. No pun intended. Or I guess pun totally intended, but you're going to love listening to Kristina. She's got a phenomenal free resource page on her website. You can go to it. I've listed the link in the show notes. It's Connect with Kristina, and Kristina with a K, connectwithkristina.com. Go check out all the information. I have recently started working with a personal stylist here in Portland, and it really has become a game changer, not in just my wardrobe, but how I think about how my wardrobe and physical appearance, how it is an extension and an enhancement of my brand online. And I want you to be thinking about this too. Should you be building your brand? Should you be looking for more of that inner confidence so that you can better connect with your ideal clients? I hope you enjoy this interview. I can't wait to hear what you think. All right, friends, welcome back to another episode. I am trying to get my voice back, but I required it to show up today because I am so excited to share with you today's guest. My friend Kristina is in the house, and we're talking all things style, all things first impressions. And oh my gosh, she's going to knock your socks off. Maybe literally and figuratively. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if socks are allowed when we talk about style, but Kristina, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am too. You and I met, let's go back 5 months. You and I met in New York City. I talked about it. I talked about going to this big event that was a bougie event in New York City with a bunch of media people. And there was like retreat applications, all these things. And I remember being very intimidated walking in that room. And I looked across and I saw you in all of your fashion glory. And I remember looking, going, oh my gosh, that woman is beautiful. And she is so well styled and put together. I have to ask her how I can step up my game quite a bit. And then I was too embarrassed to talk to you because I was super shy and felt super awkward. And then we randomly met at the bar. I think after the first night, I can't remember, but put a little champagne in me and I got brave and I talked to you. It's like hitting on someone in a bar. It was business hitting on you and I was crushing. And now here we are. Is that the most awkward setup for an interview ever?
I love it. I distinctively remember us on the green velvet couch.
Yeah. Oh, it was a green
velvet couch. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was fun. We talked for a long time on the green velvet couch.
Yeah, there was a lot of.
That was very sweet of you to think. Yes, it's good.
It was good. You're amazing. Little intro the show. I've already read officially your bio and such, but everyone's just gonna love hearing your story today. I'm gonna start things off with a really clear question because it's very fascinating to me around what you do. I've had stylists come on the show before talking about first impressions and really thinking about how you show up as a business owner, especially when you build an online brand. But I have never met anyone who combines interior design and fashion together. And I am so interested around how you decided to pull those two things together to do what you do today. So can you talk a little bit about how a stylist becomes a interior designer? I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, but like you make two things come together so magically well. I'm just very curious about the story here.
Well, it's not, when you really get into it, we're all objects of size, proportion, color. Our environments are, and a lot of the same rules apply to interior design and to personal style. But it started with, my background is marketing advertising. So building brands was my first love. But I grew up around fashion. My mom and my grandmother owned women's boutiques in Sweden. So I kind of grew up in that environment with clothes, was very comfortable, learned early that it's not one size fits all, it's not one style fits all. So I got without knowing it, I got a good education early on everyone's unique. You got to find, what works for different people and what works for different bodies. But really, it was interior design was a little bit out of a necessity, because then when I knew I wanted to leave my job in New York, when I knew I wanted to do something else, I wanted to stay in the country, and the easiest visa to get was a student visa. So I just kind of went with the wind and thought, what do I really want to learn more about? And it was interior design. So that's what I decided to go back and study. And throughout the years as an interior designer, I've often heard my clients say, Kristina, why do I don't look as good as my house? What about me? Can you do something about me? And I thought, you know what, there is something there. And so that's when I decided to also certify as an image consultant.
Yeah.
And yeah, it all works perfectly, because it's all about, it's all about you. It's all about the person. It's about the client. You want to feel comfortable in yourself, and you want to be comfortable in the space where you live.
I love this integration between the two. It makes so much sense. It's funny. I too watched a lot of HGTV, and especially when I was house buying or remodeling and those things. And I always wonder, I'm like, it is interesting to have somebody come in and do the design for you. And it's so beautiful when they can get the picture out of your head and into a room. But you're right. There is this disconnect around, like, I can't recreate that, or I don't feel as pretty. Or I think you had mentioned this in your TED talk. People are like, oh, the room, like, it feels so pretty. I don't want to live in it. There's a little bit of that disconnect there. So I love the fact that you brought them back together. And now, I mean, you work as an image consultant specifically with people, mostly with business owners, right?
Yes, mostly with entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs that kind of is in that stage of, you're building your own business, but what about me? Can I be different? What about my brand? So yeah.
What do you typically find? I'm curious with that piece. I would imagine a lot of your clients are similar to mine, where they come maybe from a corporate background and they're come from someone else kind of telling them how to dress. I mean, quite literally, with dress codes in corporate environments.
Yeah.
What do you notice, / how do you help people kind of shepherd into uncovering what their own style is?
Well, it's all about going back to who you are. It's all about that personal brand. What is the image you want people to see? What is it you want to say? It's all about that. It's not about, I always say fashion is fleeting, style is forever. And when you know what is style? Well, style is being true to yourself, is being authentic. That's your true style. And it's all about going back to who are you and what is it you want to say, and what kind of image do you want to portray?
Yeah, and I think it's kind of difficult for business owners who even thinking about branding or marketing, how to translate how you want people to see your business. How do you translate over that to clothing and fashion and style, especially if you've never really identified as a fashion forward person?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
okay, let's say someone's listening right now. They're like, okay, I'm curious about this whole thing. I'm curious about kind of putting together a little bit more stylish, polished brand. Do you have any tips around where maybe someone might start?
So the best way to start, and I know you do something similar, I think, in your work with when you're coaching for speaking, it's about finding you kind of your core attributes, your core values. So I say, pick 3 attributes that you want to have describe you. And then as we work, we make it up to 5, but starting with 3. So pick 3 attributes or adjectives. For instance, is it, I want to be seen as successful, I want to be seen as classic, or I want to be seen as approachable? What are the 3 most important things for your brand, for your company, to be seen as? And how would you like that first impression, the first takeaway to be? And that's a great start. That's kind of the foundation of everything. And from there, it almost becomes like a checklist. So everything you then choose, coming clothes, accessories, your office, all of it should be in line with those core attributes. So
Yeah.
that's the start. That's the foundation.
Yeah. So how this is what I'm always curious. So we're gonna go on a little side tangent. I had shared with you when we were chatting via Instagram DMs. A couple weeks ago, I shared in my Instagram stories that I was doing this indulgent thing, and I was hiring a stylist here locally in Portland who came spend the day in the closet. So we did what you're talking about, the words, right?
Yep.
And the fascinating part was okay, coming up with the words is one thing, but for someone who doesn't like understand what goes into style. I'm going to raise my hand on this one because I mean, I like clothes, but I don't understand like the wardrobe formula or like how to piece things together. I see these people wear hats on Instagram. I'm like, I don't think I could pull off a hat. Like there is a disconnect between how do you go from the words to like, how do you bring that out? So for someone who maybe is not so fashion forward like me, who's very basic in their wardrobe, any like guidance around what to pay attention to help them figure out how to make that better first impression you mentioned?
So I call it the red thread theory. It needs to be, because we all wear different things for different occasions, right? You're not going to wear the same things going to the grocery store as you are in a big business meeting or running to kids' soccer games. Or
I wear a ball gown to the grocery store. I don't know what
well,
you're
you
talking
could.
about.
I mean, I think we should spice up life a little bit, right? Just to make a statement. No, but there needs to be, when you have a strong brand, a strong personal brand, there is a red thread through all of your different hats, so to speak. But there's a red thread because those personal attributes will guide you in. So your gym clothes will probably kind of reflect who you are as much as your going out clothes. So that's the first thing. There needs to be a red thread through everything. And then when it comes to style, it's not about the budget. It's not about buying expensive or, you know, the more money you spend, the more stylish you are. Absolutely not. It's all about the details. It's all about the little details. So I say, don't spend money on clothes. I mean, you got to spend some because we have to wear something. But it's not about the expensive clothing. Then instead, buy a lot of fun jewelry. Buy the accessories. Buy, if you're a man, buy a tie, a belt, things like that, because it is those little details, those silent cues that really spell the beans on who you are.
Yeah, it is the little details pieces. And it's so interesting as I don't know, as a person who doesn't really focus a lot. I mean, I love clothes. We'll just put that out. And I always get compliments and stuff around my wardrobe, what I wear. But I don't, I always think about like shirts, pants, or a dress. I'm not thinking about accessories. I mean, I wear the same necklaces every day. I have necklaces are more of like a personal thing versus a fashion thing. So I'm not actually thinking about that. But one of the things that you really got me thinking about, which I knew to be true, but I'd forgotten about, is how important it is in that first impression piece. And you talk about this a lot in your TEDx talk. Y'all, by the way, we're going to link Kristina's TEDx talk in the show notes. You need to go watch it. It's only 15, 16 minutes, and it is so freaking good. And the illustration she does in it, like, will blow your mind. So go watch it. But you talk a lot about first impressions. And when I wrote this down, what you said was so good. You said, you talked about this idea that you're going to be judged either way. You want to make sure that people are judging you correctly. And I wrote this down, I'm like, oh, I have to talk to her about this, because I think, especially in the online space, so many business owners building personal brands online are so freaked out that people are going to judge them. And the truth is, as you pointed out, people are going to judge you no matter what. So can you talk about this idea of first impressions and judgment and your whole take on it?
Absolutely. So yes, we don't judge each other because we're mean. It's how our brains work. Because, you know, our brains have not developed since the beginning of humankind. And it's in a survival mode. We got to make quick, fast decisions and assumptions for survival. It's are we going to get killed or not? So that's why we make life easier by putting in boxes. So when we see someone, we need to categorize them or put them in a box in order to move on and to not get stalled or for them to kill us. So that's where it stems from. It's not out of that we're judgmental or mean people. It's just how our brains work and we can't help it. And with first impressions, 55% of that super fast, less than 7 seconds, actually more like less than 5 second first impression, it's 55% is based on how we look, about our appearance, how we walk, our body language, all that. So it's more than half of the first impression is purely how we come across.
Mhm. So for someone, I just think about where I've seen pushback in the past, right? This is where we compliment each other. I teach body language, I teach communication, and it's all of that, like the verbal, or sorry, the non-verbals around how we communicate, our resting, not so nice person face, how we use our hands, are we standing confident? Are we slouching? If we're speaking on a stage, are we pacing frantically or are we holding our own with confidence? There's all these cues that we communicate. But what's fascinating is you now bring in this element around your body, right? You communicate through your body, but what you choose to put on your body and show to the world actually communicates too. So we hadn't talked about this in before the interview, so I'm going to put you on the spot here a bit. But can you talk about some of the ways that we maybe negatively communicate impressions to our audience through what we choose to accessorize or wear, how that can actually kick back? Do you have some examples, or can you riff on that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So if we are not in harmony, how we look is not in harmony, meaning I might wear a Chanel suit, but my shoes are scuffed, or my hair looks like I rolled out of bed, then that is a disconnect. That is not harmonious, because the old Greeks decided that when things are in balance, in symmetry, and in harmony, we consider it beautiful. And when we consider it beautiful, we trust it more. So if we are not harmonious, meaning there is something weird going on where there's not a red thread in how I look, that's one of the sort of alarm bells goes on for our first impression.
Can I ask a question on that real quick? Does that also go internally too? So does that, I mean, it's the physical trigger of someone else seeing you, but does that also ring true for yourself? And I keep thinking, virtual world, people put on their top half of the fancy, but then are wearing like terrible sweatpants under the desk. Does that, is there something there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, for us, our mental state or mental health has a lot to do with what we wear and what we choose to wear. So there is a term called enclothed cognition. There will be a test at the end. So
writes down the quiz questions.
Yes. And enclothed cognition means that what you decide to wear can and will affect how you perform and how you feel about yourself. And just to kind of give an example is, we all have that one dress or that outfit that we feel smashing in. We go put it on and we're like, yeah, bring it on. Whatever it is, bring it on. I got this. So that's when we put on sort of our power suit or our superhero cape. That is enclothed cognition. And then vice versa, when we don't feel that we're stepping into the role completely, when we feel that we're not wearing the right outfit, when we're only half dressed, we're putting in less effort. So yes, there is something, and I think the pandemic kind of brought that on a lot, that when we're half dressed, we're kind of halfway in and not putting our best effort out.
Yeah. The amount of people that I heard or make memes or make mention online around, okay, I need to start wearing pants with buttons again. I need to start actually getting ready. I need it, like, it was a world felt thing around that.
Oh, yes.
I can see that even from the, I think, perspective. A lot of people come to me because they want to get better on camera. They want to look better on camera. And there's a contrast between they don't want to feel overly done and styled and put together, right? They're not a beauty influencer online, but they also don't want to be like super messy bun disheveled.
Yes.
So I can see when you talk about that congruency and that harmony around just having it all go together, that makes a lot of sense. And I can see how that really would impact confidence on camera.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to the question around ways that maybe we sabotage what we want people to see around us. And that might sound a little weird for people to think about around curating the image that you want to have. But y'all, that's PR. I mean, that's people who have a lot of money literally pay people to do this for them. And when we're business owners, we have to do this for ourselves. So what are some other ways that people unintentionally sabotage how others see them?
So it's about feeling you have, the imposter syndrome. Sometimes we want to dress down because we don't want to seem too successful or too glamorous or
egotistical or full of yourself or any of
yes,
those things. Okay.
exactly. So
Yeah.
and I think it's that rings specifically true for women, because we have a tendency of always wanting to kind of, or we have a tendency of being really hard on ourselves, way harder than men. But yeah, we tend to dress it down and not stand out, which is really it's so sad, because we're not stepping into our full potential.
Yeah. That's like you just really poke the bear in a great way on that one. I do see that a lot in women, and especially, okay, so when we think about online brands and online presence, there is very much this influencer culture of beauty brands and people who really show up very, very done up online. And a lot of times, as you see experts come into the online space, they don't want to be grouped in with quote unquote beauty influencers online. They want to be seen as established professionals. Do you have any, one of the things you mentioned in your TED Talk that I thought was really fascinating, you talked about a study that showcased how there's a correlation between the amount of time someone spends putting themselves together and standing in front of the mirror. And I can't remember the correlation, but it was how other people see them or their trust factor. Can you talk about that piece?
Yes. So it grew, especially in women. Again, this is
most of our audience is women, so you're in good
well, that's good. That's good. Good. Talking to my people here. The time we spent grooming, meaning looking put together, having the hair done, having some makeup, having maybe our nails taken care of, the more groomed we seem, the more money we make. It did not matter if you are considered classically beautiful or not. It was the effort you seem to have put into your appearance made you look like you were more successful, and therefore had an easier time asking for raises or promotions, and were overall higher paid than women that didn't seem to put any effort.
This is fascinating to me. And I wonder there's this thing called the law of diminishing returns, where at the point where you put so much effort onto something that the return actually comes down. I'm curious around that. When I'd heard that stat initially, what I thought was, I was like, hold on real quick. Sometimes you see a person who looks like they spent 9 hours in front of the mirror, like delicately hand applied every eyelash. And it is overdrive. Is there a point where when you put so much effort into your appearance that it's off-putting? Is that a thing?
Well, there's no official study, but I have my own take on it.
I want to hear your take on it.
So when it looks so stylish but effortless, meaning it's just a natural occurrence, and of course she's going to look great because that's how she is. But when it looks too made up, then it's not authentic anymore, and that's when we see kind of the cracks in the facade. We're going, oh, wait a minute, that's not how she woke up this morning. Or so it's a fine balance, but I think we all know that person that always has too much makeup on, or is just, and that's that fine line. But when it's not authentic, when it doesn't look like it's part of who you naturally are, that you look put together, but it looks like it's a natural thing for you to do.
Yeah, it's that effortless factor. It's interesting. I'm just spitballing here, but the line between your voice and how you speak and how you show up with how you physically portray yourself. What reminds me of this is a lot of times people come to us here at Speaker Co. thinking like, oh, I want to be more polished. I want to be more put together. But what they think that means is they need to be perfect with their voice. They need to sound great. They need to get every word right, that everything has to be nailed. But what I typically talk about with clients is, look, you don't actually want to be perfect in everything that you say. Because first of all, we don't speak grammatically correctly. So if you were to quote unquote speak perfectly, you would sound like a robot and be very unapproachable. People don't like perfect. They actually just like real, authentic, and helpful. And so we have to be aware of filler words. We have to be more casual with our language. And there's that blend between polish, professional, and personable that we
Yep.
really have to bring together. I hear that coming through as you're talking about style.
Yep.
And I think what may ring true, like, okay, think about us today. I'm essentially wearing a sweatshirt, blazer, and a t-shirt, right? I flat ironed my hair today, but I'm wearing very bare like makeup. You are very polished, right? You're like banging it with the earrings that you have. I love the structure of your sleeve. We're both wearing black, all black in our outfits. But what's interesting is as I see you today, how you show up, you have the eyelashes on, you have the makeup on, you have the hair on. It's so authentic and true for your style. For me, when I'm showing up at a t-shirt right now in a sweatshirt blazer, like that's very authentic for me. And I think
Mhm.
like when you talk about figuring out that like your core words, like I don't know, I just see our reflections here. I'm like, this is such a good example around putting yourself together, but also showing up really true to you. So I just,
Yeah.
who
No,
wore it better?
absolutely. That's what it's all about. And that's what I think when it comes to style, a lot of people get scared or worried about that it has to be a certain way. It has to be what the magazines show. And that's one of the questions I get asked a lot is, so what am I supposed to wear this fall, this season? And I say, it doesn't matter what's out there. You got to tell me who you are, and then I can tell you what you should wear.
Yeah.
But you should not look at magazines to tell you what to wear. It's all about who you are.
Yeah. And honestly, I magazine thing can be it can be very, I don't know, you probably get this a lot. I'm gonna go off on a side tangent here, but a lot of times in catalogs or even online, we see clothes on other people, and there is a big discrepancy around the shape of the model and how our bodies are shaped. So, for example, for me, I am very hippie. I have like very, very wide hips. And so when I see things in catalogs, I'm like, there's no freaking way that's going to look good on me. And that messes with less is what we think is beautiful and what we like all that thing. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think
Mm.
that probably makes it harder for people to dress themselves because they have a skewed image of what clothes look like, and then they put them on themselves, and it doesn't work.
Yeah. So finding, learning about your body shape, because, you know, there are 5 body shapes for women out there. We're all going to be one of the 5 or a combination of 2. There's no right and wrong. This is how we were born. So the quicker we embrace and learn how to dress our specific body shape, the easier life is, because it's not, there's no right and wrong. It's all about knowing so that you can apply what works for your shape. But yes, a lot of the models and even in the plus size fashion, there's a lot of one shape that's being portrayed out there. But that's why it's so important to not get into looking at the models out there. It's all about learn your shape. That is such a game changer.
Yeah.
And I do have a free guide for that. Anyone who wants to download that can
Oh
do.
yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
think on that. We're gonna include that
Yeah.
here. We'll talk about the end of the show. Y'all, this is very, very insightful. I mean, I thought I knew my shape, but we're gonna go down another rabbit hole, which is very much on brand for the show. Y'all, I'm really, really tall. So most people just see me on video, but when I stand next to someone, you experience me live and
Yep.
I have extremely long legs. My legs are longer. So my ex in high school, 6'6", my legs were longer than his. Like I
Yeah.
have freakishly long legs, which everyone's like, oh, how wonderful. Y'all, that's very hard to find pants for. Like
It
wonderful,
is.
yes, difficult to shop. But I have really long legs. I have really long arms, really short torso, really wide hips, but very skinny in places, not in others. Like we all have our different body things. And it's really easy to look at one person and be like, oh, they have it together, but not.
Yep.
I was always finding myself trying to accommodate for the length or the long arms or the short torso of all, like I was trying to mishmash things together. But when I discovered my quote unquote shape type and realized the thing that I was trying to hide was the thing I actually needed to emphasize, I was like, whoa. So that, anyways, this whole body shape thing and
Yep.
understanding that, game changer
Yep.
around instantly around how you look at clothes. So let
And
me,
it's, I mean, we make decisions on, we get dressed every day. Why don't we learn these things in school? I mean, it should be like come with a manual, right? You are a person. These are the things you need to learn.
yeah.
So body shape, and for men, men only have 4 body shapes because they're a little simpler. But it same thing there when they learn about the shape and what they should and should not do for that shape. And by the way, you can do whatever you want. It's all about good, better, and best.
Yeah.
So whatever you're comfortable with. But there are ways when you learn to enhance what you love about yourself, and we can always bypass the things we don't like about ourselves.
Yeah.
But when you learn that, getting dressed becomes a whole lot easier.
Yeah, it really does. Even for me, just over the last couple of weeks, I'm like noticing things different. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a funny and controversial question here.
Ooh.
Can we talk about jeans for a moment?
Yes, we may. We can absolutely.
I'm laughing because of the great debate online right now that I don't actually know is a debate, or it's just people talking about the debate between like Gen Xers and millennials and skinny jeans and mom jeans and high-waisted jeans. Are skinny jeans out? I don't like, is that a thing? Like, I love skinny jeans. I don't know if I'm getting real information or just TikTok news. Help me, Kristina. Are skinny jeans still fashionable, or am I embarrassing my children?
No. So skinny jeans are not going to be as easy to buy within the next couple of seasons because they are, quote unquote, not in fashion right now. But again, when it comes to, and why they're not is because 90% of the population can't pull them off. So when you can wear skinny jeans, absolutely, you should embrace it. But the problem is when something becomes a fashion statement like that, and jeans, because we all wear them, it just breaks my heart because then for a while we all tried to squeeze into skinny jeans and it doesn't work. So now what's on trend is, the boyfriend or the mom or the straight leg, which is great for some body shapes,
some types,
not for all. Yep. So yes, it's not, no, I say when you rock your jeans, regardless of what type or style they are, when you rock them, your confidence shows, and that's what you should stick with.
Yeah, I love that you explain it this way because I am not a person who really cares much about fashion trends, but it's so funny because I mean, there's so many funny TikToks and reels of people talking about this great debate between Gen Xers and millennials.
No, it's
and
just,
I'm like, I don't care. Like, do I look good? Do I feel good? That's fine with me.
Exactly. And what works for your body shape? What works for your body? I mean, my daughter is 13 and she's shorter than me, but had longer legs than I do. Yeah, she can pull that off. I can't. So we all just gotta, be realistic.
Find our thing. Something that I thought was really interesting. So for me, I mentioned my really long legs. I have to be really aware of inseams with pants. But the thing that I had never considered, and this might be, you're going to laugh at me because you're like, well, this is very normal for you. I had never thought about measuring the height of a waistband. I saw quote unquote mom jeans and I'm like, okay, let me just go back real quick. So I've talked about my mom before. I lost my mom when I was a teenager. My mom had, bless her soul, had terrible fashion sense, like terrible fashion sense. My mom would wear socks with sandals. She also really liked Tweety Bird t-shirts. I have a very vivid memory of that. So when I think mom jeans, I think of Jordache mom jeans that were just not fashionable. So my interpretation of mom jeans, I just have some stigma with that. So coming back into my jeans, I've always done more of like low rise or whatever of honestly what I can find inseam wise. I'd never really thought about height because the tall height jeans just in my brain, I had a weird thing with. But we measured the from the bottom of the zipper all the way up.
The rise.
Yeah, the rise.
Mm-hmm.
We measured that when I had my stylist here and I was blown away. I was like, wait, what? I need them to be how tall? And in my brain, I had, because my legs are so long, I cannot do high-waisted jeans because my torso is so short that I would look like a cartoon character. And she blew that out of the water for me when we talked about what that real height is. So I don't know if you want to riff on that for a moment, but I don't know if I'm the only person who never really thought about that before, but holy crap, that's a game changer.
Just like we don't know our body shapes and how to dress the shape, most of us don't know our proportions. So with proportions, it's not a question of how big our tummies are. We all measure it from the top to the bottom. We don't go around. It's all proportionate. And it was back to Leonardo da Vinci that discovered that if we are 8 head lengths long, we are perfectly proportioned. So it has to be our own head. Since we all have different size heads, you got to measure your head and then,
I'm like
you know,
now
work.
thinking, I'm like, I'm going to go measure that. I'm going to write that
Well, you
down.
can't do it yourself because when you bend, so you have to have someone do it for you. But then, so the waist, if you were perfect, the waist hits at 3 head lengths. The rise is 1 head length, and then our legs are 4
Oh my
head
gosh,
lengths.
this is so funny.
But most of us are not.
No.
And even if we're height wise, our different body parts are not falling where they should. So all about what image consultants do and stylists, it's about making sure we adjust so that you look more proportionate. That's what it's all about. So it's, you know, and with tricks and things, it's all smoke and mirrors. You know, you can make a torso look taller, you can make a rise look lower, you can make legs look longer. It's all about learning those little tips and tricks. And again, it's one of those things no one ever taught us. But hey, even Leonardo da Vinci knew, and he, you know, it was a while ago since he was around. So you would think that it would be common knowledge by now, but not.
It's not. And I love the way that you talk about it and the way that you teach it. You make it feel less daunting, right? You make it feel less overwhelming. So I freaking love that. And also Da Vinci and his drawing perfectly proportioned people. Like
yes.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
I should say my best friend is the only person I have met, and I've measured a lot of people. She is perfectly proportioned. And I had to remeasure her 4 times because I'm like, no, there's no way. But yeah, so her doesn't mean that she thinks her body is slamming and she loves everything. No, she just happens to have the things in where Leonardo said they were perfectly proportioned.
Yeah, the 1 head and the 3 heads and then
Yes,
the
exactly.
like I'm thinking of, side note, I'm thinking of if anybody's ever played Super Mario Brothers, where they go to the desert and there's like the cactuses stacked up and then Yoshi the cactuses like
Yep.
That's exactly what's in my brain right now. Is the
and if you look at the original Leonardo drawings, that's exactly what it is.
Oh
It's
my
heads.
gosh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, I want you to debunk one common question or one common thought that people have, and then we're going to talk about how people can learn more about you and all those little great resources that you mentioned through today's episode. I know a lot of people think fashion, and they instantly think like, oh my gosh, I don't have the money for that. And we think about fashion. We think about what we see in the magazines and we see the $400 t-shirt and we're like, there's no way I can be fashionable when I'm making a profit. I can be fashionable later. For now, I got to be scrappy. Can you speak to that for a moment? Because you and I both know that that is not true. It is not true.
And this is something I feel very strongly about. And it goes both for interiors and for clothes. I say you can do style on any budget. It's just about being consistent. Again, I talked about the red thread. It's all about that consistency. So a lot of my clients are surprised to find out that a lot of my clothes come from H&M and Express and Amazon and consignment stores. Love a good consignment store. So no, it's not about the money you spend. It's about how well thought through it is and how that, again, that harmony from top to bottom. So don't worry about the price tag. It's better to, as I said before, go with something simple clothing wise and then spice it up. Put your own flair on it with accessories or ties or belts or shoes or bags or whatever. But don't think that you can't be stylish just because you feel like you can't afford it.
Yeah, mic drop on that. I think that's really important. And especially when we think about building online brands. I mean, if you're going to show up, whether it's photos or to a podcast interview or you're doing social media on stories, like we all know we want to feel our best, that when we feel confident, our audience is going to have more confidence in us. So I'm just going to go on a limb here and double down and say, this is not like an optional thing for like people who like fashion. Like it's a responsibility thing that when you show up as the face of your brand, you also need to look like the face of your plan.
Absolutely. Yep. And it goes not just about stylish and be polished. I mean, if you are a tattoo artist, you should look like a tattoo artist and you shouldn't look like you're some you shouldn't show up in a Chanel suit. I mean, you got to be true to your brand and who you are. So it's not, again, not one size fits all. It's about be authentic to you and to your brand.
I don't know. I'm thinking like a Chanel suit, but with like a sleeve of tats or like a face tattoo. That would be pretty badass. That's like a bougie tat artist.
Well, that's definitely going to get those gray cells thinking, alert, 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 Mayday.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Kristina, I could talk to you all day, but I know we do need to wrap this. So where can people learn more about you and grab that guide that you're mentioning before where they can understand more about their body shapes? Where's the best place for them to connect?
So the easiest place to go to is go to my website. That's Connect with Kristina, and Kristina with a K. Connectwithkristina.com. I have my a lot of free guides in all sorts of, because I'm all about making life easier for everyone. So you can download all the free guides, and if you have questions, you can reach out to me there. So yeah, Connect with Kristina.
Perfect. And we will put that in the show notes. And I will also link to Kristina's amazing TEDx talk. I really ask you take 15 minutes to go watch that today. It'll be a perfect complement to echo what we talked about today and give you some visual demonstrations of that. Kristina, one last question here. I want to give you the opportunity to think the person who's listening today, who's like, oh, I love this. Now I have a whole nother thing to add to my to-do list. And they're already coming up with all these ways that they're not right with their fashion, or now they're feeling bad because they're like, oh, I need to be thinking about those things. Just another thing on my list. Is there any hope or any encouragement that you can give them to help them leave this feeling light and feeling excited about taking this next step?
Absolutely. So Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to change your style or all of a sudden grow a style overnight. It's all happening gradually. I think the fact that you're starting to think about it and it's starting to kind of seep into your awareness, then you're halfway there. So just thinking about it will get you there. And don't worry, let it take its time. Just like everything that's important in life, it's going to take time.
It's going to take time, and it doesn't have to be that overnight switch thing for sure. Maybe it just goes as far. I was joking last week that what was I doing? Oh, I went to a wedding. And I was chatting with someone and I was wearing a dress and they're like, oh, you look nice. I'm like, I'm so excited. I'm wearing an underwire bra right now. That is not a normal thing, but putting on like a real bra and real Spanx, I was like, oh, it was the mental thing that showed up.
Yeah.
Sometimes our wins are very small, but we got to start somewhere.
That's right.
All right, Kristina, you're amazing. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with our audience today. I am so appreciative to you. And for those of you listening, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give a shout out on Instagram. I will include Kristina's Instagram handle on the show notes, but just tell us what you loved about this episode. And if you are inspired to do anything based around what you learned today, be sure to tag us both in your Instagram stories. That is the best compliment when we can hear how y'all are using this stuff. So thank you again, Kristina. And y'all also.
Thank you.
Welcome. We'll see y'all next week on the next episode.